My intention today is to share with you some highlights from a very unique story in the Quran. This is towards the end of Surat al-Kahf, something we recite every Friday. This is one of the events in the life of Musa alayhi salam. The chronology of it is not known, but it seems it's very much later on after his great missions have been accomplished. The challenge against the Pharaoh is done, the crossing of the water is done, the Israelites are somewhat, they're in the desert now, etc. And it seems it's in that time frame that Allah Azza wa Jal calls him to task. He gives him a mission, essentially that he has to go learn something. The first thing I'd like to highlight is Musa alayhi salam's commitment to learning. He says, what I recited in the beginning of this khutbah, he said to his young student, you can say his intern, his fata, his young man, in other words, he took an assistant with him, and he says to him, لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبة. I'm going to continue and stay committed to this journey until I reach the place where two oceans meet. Even if it means I have to spend multiple lifetimes finding it. He's telling this to his student. And all of this, the purpose of this journey is he's going to learn from someone. So the first thing he's teaching his student is that more than anything else, he himself is a student. And he's teaching his student his own commitment as a student. It doesn't matter if it takes me multiple lifetimes to find this destination or not, because I don't know exactly where it is. I'm just heading in this direction and you're coming along with me. But don't ask me to quit, because I'm not going to. I'm that committed to learning. This is Allah's way of also teaching us that the knowledge He's about to learn isn't something trivial. Of course, you know that Musa alayhi salam is the most mentioned prophet in the Quran. He's also the recipient of the largest revelation. The Torah is significantly much bigger in volume than the revelation of the Quran. And he's, by that definition, he's actually the most knowledgeable of all human beings until that time. He has more knowledge of revelation than anybody else that has been given. And yet, this man is now being told, alayhi salam, that he is going to go learn. And by the way, his followers, what are they called? They're called people of the book, meaning people of learning. The people who take his religion, and even though they've made changes to it, they're called ahbar, people of ink. In other words, this is the messenger, alayhi salam, who inspired so much learning and so much knowledge that came after him. His people became known as the people of knowledge and the people of information and the people of the book. In any case, he's going to learn something that requires an extra effort on his part. Even if it takes him lifetimes, there's something unique and valuable about these lessons that even the book of Allah at the time is not going to teach him. He has to learn this from somewhere else. Even the Torah doesn't have this answer. And Allah won't just give it to him. He won't just reveal it to him. Allah says in the Quran, وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. Allah used to speak to Musa alayhi salam directly, in direct communication, and engage with him in a very rigorous communication. And yet, Allah says, no, this is not the kind of learning that even Allah will teach you directly. You're going to have to go on a journey. So it is a very unique circumstance. You don't just pass over this little bit of information. You have to appreciate what's going on here. The most knowledgeable person in the world at the time is now being told, you have to go learn a lesson from somewhere else. And so he goes on this, what seems like an endless journey. Who is this person that he's going to learn from? What are his credentials? I mean, if Musa alayhi salam is the most mentioned prophet in the Quran, is going to become a student of someone, we must really learn his name and acknowledge him. So now when we get to that, Allah Azza wa Jal, all He says is, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. They found one of our servants. Literally, the Quran describes this teacher of Musa alayhi salam as one of our servants. I know that in our narrations and some of the opinions, we find his name to be Khadir or Khidr, it's pronounced differently. Quran deliberately does not mention his name. You would think this is a very important individual, and there's even an argument whether it's human or angel. It's not an issue in the Quran. The Quran didn't ask that question. We don't have to ask that question. The Quran gave us one bit of information about him. He was one of our slaves. What does that do? That actually teaches us something profound about those who reach the heights of knowledge. They are nothing more than a slave of Allah. Their titles, their credentials are insignificant before Allah. He's a mysterious figure that Musa alayhi salam just knows.